exactly right. We're getting very close to the Southern Riverband gig down at the Shelter Brewery down at Busselton. You are on the Shelter SportCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, the original crew is back together on a Monday morning. G'day, Skeet. How are you?
G'day, Scully. Good to be with you. At this time last week, you were in negotiations with Oprah Winfrey. You had Netflix knocking on your door after that explosive chat with Justin Langer. The beads of sweat on your forehead were just pouring down. You're a bit concerned about the aftermath of that.
Oprah Winfrey,
and
seriously.
And I got some good feedback. You know, apart from the JL interview, which we know went viral, if that's the term we should use, a lot of good feedback around the traps. Was at Bunnings yesterday. Seriously, at Bunnings. To pick up, because you know when you go into Bunnings,
yes.
and I know absolutely nothing about stuff around the house.
What were you doing in there?
Well, I had to go and pick up some deck chairs and a little washer for the garden hose, which I stuffed up. Anyway, the bloke from Bunnings, young bloke, he said, "Do you Adrian?" So no, Mark Redding. So he got my name wrong, but he knew what I did.
Oh,
and that was this podcast.
Oh.
And so the young bloke from Bunnings, shout out to you. And in fact, I met a couple, Jacob, I think, or Jared from Hall's Head Footy Club. They are rallying behind the cause of the SportCast / FootyCast for Shelter.
Just to put this into context, 30 years in the game, Channel 7, extraordinaire. I mean, you've done it all, really.
23 is at Channel 9, and you reckon, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting stopped in Bunnings. People think you're Adrian Barrich on the Shelter FootyCast. I'll tell you what, it doesn't get much better.
I did get a sausage sizzle though, because I was a bit hungover from the races on Saturday. So
onions, mustard, tomato sauce,
onion, and I just sat in the car after I, you know when you get the trolley and the thing's falling off, and that's me with two deck chairs. And so I've sat there because I went to the races Saturday and punted like a complete. I was pathetic. I was a disgraceful human being. Anyway, I lost on the punt, had too many to drink, and then had to go to Bunnings to find stuff I knew nothing about.
Welcome to the Shelter Sportcast. That's Mark Redding's general weekend. This happened about 46 weeks in a row so far this year in 2022, and we're almost at the end of the year. It's great to have you with us. We've been the FootyCast originally. We're now the Shelter Sportcast, where we get through the World Cup, both in the cricket variety, the soccer variety. We've got a bit of AFL action to get through today. We do this every Monday and Thursday. A bit of a West Australian theme. You can find us on social, Shelter FootyCast on Instagram, FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. Listen to us as a podcast. Watch us on YouTube. You know the deal. Brought to you by Shelter, born and brewed in Busselton. Now, the SRB, Southern Riverband boys, are playing Friday, 2nd of December. This Friday. If you haven't got your tickets, there are a couple available, not many. And you know what's happening there.
DJ Gengar gets it all off.
I would love to see.
The kit is off.
Mark Reddings emceeing Southern Riverband. Imagine you announcing Southern Riverband, naked DJ Gengar. I mean, it'd just be absolute scenes. Don't worry about Bunnings. You'd be recognised for life after that. You can buy those tickets at shelterbrewing.com.au. Get down there. Now let's get into it. We've got a bit of a big show to get through. I don't know which one was the biggest moment. It's got to be the Socceroos.
What do you mean? You don't know what was the biggest moment? What are the contenders?
AFLW Grand Finals on the weekend, Skeeter. Melbourne won that one. That's a big game, premiership player.
No, there were 4 goals kicked. But anyway, move on.
Australia win their first World Cup game in 12 years against Tunisia.
It was really, it was exciting. I know Tunisia is not exactly a soccer superpower, but to get the lead early and the defensive work we put in. Graham Arnold, 59 years of age, first Australian-born coach to lead the Socceroos to a World Cup victory.
Did you see him clip a couple on? He didn't even clip. It was a good clip. It was like
after you've won clip.
Yeah, like who cares? Yeah. They've never coached. Some of them
have never been here.
Never even been played at the World Cup.
It sounded like it was like a John Warsaw or Mick Malthouse after they'd had a big victory and stuck it up a few people. Yeah. So that was terrific. And look, obviously, I think most people know the scenario. If we can beat Denmark or even draw with Denmark, we most likely go through because the other result is France-Tunisia, which if Tunisia for some reason can beat France, we're in a bit of trouble. But if France gets the job done, we just need a draw or a win. But obviously a win would be
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you know what time the game is?
Yeah, I do, actually. 11 o'clock on Thursday night.
That's doable.
It's definitely doable.
So that's going to be a big Thursday night. So bosses, get ready for the sick leave on Friday, I reckon, because people are going to load up for that.
Yeah, it's 2 hours, done by 1. So, look, and just watching the Danes, they were pretty good against France, beaten 2-1. So this is going to be tough for us, particularly backing up after a result like that.
Where did you watch it?
I watched it when I got home from the races. I was waiting for my wife. Then I went to the shoe bar and watched the concluding stages.
Excellent. So we watched it at the Paddo. I reckon when a goal is kicked in soccer, and especially in the World Cup with the Socceroos,
Amazing.
There is no more
The vibe's amazing.
There's no ecstatic feeling than that moment when a goal's kicked. Like, we're at the paddo, there was kids there. Like, it was pretty tame. And people are kicking chairs over and throwing beers in the air and smashing their arms about. Like, it was unreal.
Oh,
It was so exciting.
And it's happened all across, like even in Qatar, where there's been results. Morocco beating Belgium this morning 2-0. There's cars overturned. There's just restaurants destroyed. It's gone mental over there.
I don't know what happened in that Belgium game because stayed at Crown Towers last night, Skate. Just a bit like just a little staycation. You know how it goes.
Well,
Don't look at me like.
You used to be one of us.
It went really well, Skate. So one of my kids got food poisoning down there, so he's been spewing up since 3 o'clock. But I did make it here to the Shelter SportCast just for the fans. But put the kids to bed. Alex to bed. She's feeling a little bit unwell as well. I said, babe, I'm just gonna duck down to the sport bar. Just gonna duck down to the cat. So I ducked down, had a bit of a look. I didn't have any bank cards. I found $5 in my car, so I went down to the sport bar.
Hang on, you didn't have any money on you?
No, I don't carry bank cards. I've got pay pass. New age, Skeeter. I know you don't understand.
Like Kramer. Like Kramer in Seinfeld. It doesn't help your hip alignment by having a wallet. Is that right?
You'd have a big bum bag on a pulling out bank cards. I don't operate like that, okay? So just let me get to my story. I go to the sport bar. This is a sports story. Morocco are getting pantsed by Belgium. There was a fairly big Belgium contingent in there, flags, that sort of stuff. Getting pantsed. Like, for the first 10 minutes, there would have been 6 corners to Belgium. They were having free kicks from outside the box. Woke up this morning. I did go back to bed, Skater. 2-0. So I don't know what happened with the Moroccan game. I don't know how they wiped that. But on my way out, I thought, going to slot this $5 note into the pokies. I'm going to find the biggest major prize on the pokies. Imagine the story. Take $5 in, have a beer, watch the Morocco.
Alex, look what I've brought home.
Put the $5 in, didn't get $1 back. Walked out, but only $5 down, Skate.
Yeah, no, I was about $300 down at Ascot on Saturday. So welcome to our punting three-way turf talk.
Shelter Sportcast. It's time to get into the AFL draft. The AFL draft is Monday. You are here with Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. I think we're going to get into it. Just a little break. Now, Fremantle on West Coast, West Australian theme here. We've got some picks. West Coast certainly have some picks inside the top 20. They've got 4 picks inside the top 30, I believe. Fremantle won't enter the draft until pick 30 as it stands, and probably will move a couple back due to some of the academy acquisitions that happen and training of picks. So let's get into the Fremantle draft preview. They've lost a few this year. They've lost Lobb, Akers, Logue, Tucker, Meek. What do they need? This is the first time Fremantle's starting outside the top 30 since 2004. So they're missing a bit of talent. They're going to miss that top end talent. What do they need to pick up in this draft?
Well, as you say, they're at pick 30, so they're not going to get a good look at the draft today, at least, tomorrow potentially. But look, when you look at the size of the players, particularly Lobb, I mean, they need, and Meek, I mean, they need a big, primarily, be nice. And obviously, with David Mundy's departure, I think down back they're pretty well served. I reckon they're in a reasonable space.
Strong back.
I think if you can get, I don't think you have too many mids. I know it sounds a bit strange, but I think if you can keep building on your depth in your midfield, but what you're not going to do is in a draft, you're not going to immediately replace a.
You're not going to draft a key forward that comes and kicks 50 goals for you.
Exactly, totally. I mean, Joe Amos is actually, after watching him, and obviously he was injured, he's progressing the way you would think a top-end draft pick would go. Came in, kicked a couple of goals on debut, and you think, wow, in 2 or 3 years, this is just a nice body of work he'll put together.
They'll be looking at this year as they've already used their number 1 draft pick on a key position player in Jackson. Like that, they have done that, right? If you look,
but do you think he's a 30, 40 goal a year?
No, but he's a key position player, right?
True.
So if you look at players who've gone out, well, they have had some come in. So if you looked at their draft hand, well, they've already spent their draft pick on Jackson, who, if he was in this draft, he'd go number 1, right? So they've acquired the number 1 draft pick of this year a couple of years in the system. So maybe they have done what we're talking about, is they've actually drafted a key position player that has developed.
Outside the draft,
Maybe he does kick 30 or 40 goals this year.
Yeah, and Peter Bell has said that he's probably he will be played slightly differently to his role at Melbourne and might help his game. So, look, you're right. You make a good point that the Dockers, albeit they don't have the immediate forward replacement in a draft sense, but they're going to have it with what they did at trade time.
So they got pick 30, 43, 44, 65, 70, 77. They'll probably use 3 or 4 of those, depending on how their list sits. You probably won't get any at the back end there. Now, I wanted to have a look at a couple of the guys that are rumoured around. Now, this is difficult. This is 30 picks in. These phantom drafts that go out, once it gets past about pick 10, it's anyone's guess, seriously. So we'll go through a couple of guys that have been talked about in the position, and I think it's because of their versatility. I think Freo will go versatile. So Tom McCallum, he's a Tassie Devils guy. He's rumoured to be around that pick 30. He's an all-round athlete. He's got speed. He's got endurance. He's got aerial ability. He averaged 17 disposals in under 18 level, and I think they'd be looking at someone like him because – yes, he's played in defence, but he's versatile. What we've just said there, they're losing, different players in different positions. They need to just add some depth, right?
Yeah, totally. Do they need the defender? Do they need Tom McCallum? Do they need a Hugh Davies? So I've seen a bit of for Claremont playing Colts footy.
Key position? Or is he more of a versatile guy?
He can play centre-half back. Look, I won't say he's not a key position player, but he's quite mobile. He gets around pretty well. Averaged 90 disposals for the Tigers this year. I like him. I'm just wondering whether they're going to go down that path of a defender draft-wise. I know things can change, but they are pretty well served despite Griffin Lowe going. Heath Chapman will probably step up and play a more pivotal role. Maybe, I think they've got enough insurance down back that I'm just not sure whether the defender is where they'll be heading with their first pick.
Caleb Smith's someone that could be available. He's an East Freo kid. He's a midfielder. You would have seen a bit of his footy this year?
He's really good overhead. Yep. Really good mark. So I've seen a bit of him. Seen him play for Wesley. I think it is in the PSA as well. He's a really good young player. He's one that I think, as you say, there's a lot of guesswork here, but he's one to watch going forward because he's got some tricks.
We'll get through at the back end of the West Coast preview a few of the WA boys and some of the top 10 guys. So, Freo, as we've said, they'll have a wide net to cast and they'll have to take best available and it'll be a versatile player. So, look, that could end up with anyone. It'll be interesting to see. I do think, as a thought on draft as a whole, I think too much time and priority is put on talent sometimes. Talent and athleticism. In my experience, if you had to choose between someone of high talent versus a kid with talent, right, but not premium, but had a better attitude and a better mentality, that kid with a better attitude and mentality will always beat the high talent kid. High talent might look good as a young kid, but if they have the right attitude, they come into a football club, they know how to work hard, they know how to listen to direction, they're a good person. Clubs look at it, but I do think there's a formula that's missing that clubs don't sometimes get right, and it's around the mentality, because you can be as talented as you like, but if you don't have that mentality, and it sounds vague, but it's like you can see them, honestly, you can see them the day they walk in the door, these kids, whether they'll make it or not. Like, seriously, it takes about a week. You ask any of the old boys at West Coast or guys I've been around, you can see it. It's not in their eyes, but you can see just the first few things that they do. Like, they all have talent, but do they have it? Do they have that competitive element? Do they have that real, grit? I think sometimes that's where clubs get it wrong.
Yeah, look, and to be fair, I think most of the kids, and I've interviewed quite a few of the WA players coming through, most of them, in fact, I reckon 95, 98%, if you get to this point where you're in the mix to be drafted, I think you're pretty much, your attitude's right, you're doing a lot of things right. So you're talking, it's only a small percentage in terms of attitude, etc. But yeah.
If you're getting to pick 30, that's what they're going to be, talent's going to be about the same from about pick 25 to about pick 70, right? There'll be
not much between the best and
the mentality there will be. And kids can be highly talented and work hard, but do they have it? And what that is, that's a very big mystery. Let's get into the West Coast draft preview. They've got picks 8, 12, 20, 26, 71, unlikely to use that 71. They come into this draft hand into this draft with the strongest draft hand they've had in I don't know when. Like I can't remember.
Well, Andrew Gaff's their last top 10 draft pick, isn't he?
Yep. So that's a long time ago.
That's 250 plus games ago.
They enter this draft with a sense of rebuilding after losing Junior Rioli in the draft period. They don't really lose much, but they'll be looking to add very high quality players here, Skate.
Yeah, and look, given we know that Ruben Ginbey is going to likely be the top pick from WA, whether he gets to number 8, and whether in fact the Eagles, have you got? I know we always say pick the best player available.
Gun midfielder. Midfielder.
Yeah, best midfielder. But the West Australian element, does that come into it? Should it? Does it? Will it? Today?
Will it? It probably will. Should it? I mean, I'm biased. I would probably say just pick the best kid. They've got a Campbell Chesser, who was their number 1 draft pick last year, that it makes sense when you're building a young group like that to add other interstaters because they'll hang out all the time. First, second, third year players, they spend a lot of time together. So I don't think for West Coast it'll be a big issue if they go and draft a Victorian or South Australian kid because they'll be hanging out with Chesser and the other kids that they've added around there. They've got some local WA boys as well. But I think their number 1 priority has got to be like the best midfielder available. I know they say best available, but I think it's got to be the best midfielder and get a gun midfielder at pick 8 and maybe pick 12.
I was going to say, you can get 2. But that's why they split the picks to get... I mean, pick 8 and 12, you can get some really high quality.
Have you seen Ginbey play much this year?
Not a lot, but he's... I think Colts-wise a little bit, but not a heap. Jed Busselton I've seen more of.
Jimmy's like a bigger type. He's been likened to a Jack Crisp from Collingwood. So if you think about Jack Crisp playing in the midfield, he's a bit of a bulldozer, but he's also got that skill. He's not like I don't want to say Clayton Oliver because his skill's working, but he's more skillful than a player like a Matty Rowell. Matty Rowell, hard in and under, but he doesn't have the outside skill right now. I think Ginbey does, so that's why he's highly touted. Ed Allen's been an interesting one to see how he's been going. This is the son of Ben Allen.
And unfortunately just doesn't qualify for the father-son because of...
Is that
well, obviously, games. Hawthorn, dad, Ben, premierships player, 91, best and fairest in that year, by the way, as well. And then, of course, Fremantle, inaugural captain. But, the games didn't quite add up. So, look, he could end up even theoretically at the Eagles as a potential. But I have seen a bit of him this year. Had some, I think, stress fractures or certainly some...
He's tall.
He's tall, and he's bigger than his old man.
195.
Yeah, he's a big unit. And he's mobile. And I think he's got, he's national combine results. And I know he can't use that as the barometer, but they show you that he's an athlete.
Well, people just look at that taller midfield. Paddy Cripps just won the Brownlow medal, right? So Paddy Cripps is 194 and this kid's 195. So you can say what you like, but people look at that, and at times it's been, you got to draft athletes, and at times it's been, you got to get the footballers in and that sort of stuff. But, his draft combine results has certainly catapulted him into, big talks. He's definitely a player that West Coast will look at. That sort of a player, I think.
I think he's a chance to go in the first round.
Yeah.
And a really good chance.
Absolutely.
So,
Elijah Hewitt, Swan Districts lad.
Yeah, interesting, because he's, of course, Colts premiership player with Swans, played a lot of league footy this year, and having spoken to Adam Jones at the Footy Commission, he's a rap for him. I know that St Kilda's had a good chat to him, and Ross Lyon, in fact, made direct contact with Elijah, which is pretty rare, apparently, for Ross to contact a player before a draft. I don't know if that ever happened with you.
I was just trying to think then. I mean, like at the draft combine, all the coaches are there. So, but
no, I think he called him on the phone for half an hour. So
I was thinking about the weeks leading into the draft, sort of coming up into this. So, Kinnear Beatson, who's still in the game, I think at Adelaide. That could be wrong. Maybe Sydney. So he's a recruiter. He rang me week of. He was I remember him sort of just saying, look, I think you'll get picked up. We're certainly looking at you. But if it's not us, you're gonna do really well. Like all the best. It was sort of just a
nice chat.
Yeah, a nice chat. Definitely the Sydney recruiter rang me, and just again, it was more because I went at 50, right? So there was a 50-50 chance if I was even going to go.
But you were you were a defender at that age. Was that your go?
Yeah, I was playing defender in year 12, but before that, under 16 state footy, I played full forward. But Leon Harris. Played me full forward for the first 2. Kicked a few goals as well, Skate, might add. And then the last game played me at full back, and I played a much better game because I sort of, probably as a full forward, sometimes would wait for the game to come, whereas as a full back, as a defender, I used what I learned as a forward and came at it. So Leon Harris, who again is still in the development game, he was my coach at Vic Country, and I run into him every now and then. I ran into him before the 2018 grand final in the hotel, and I was like, fuck, here I am, mate.
Yeah.
Because I was never going to get picked as an under 16, and he picked me out of the Falcons.
So Leon Harris, is he former Fitzroy? Am I thinking of the same guy?
Yep. So I didn't get picked in the squad, and he plucked me out, and they wanted to cut me, and he kept me, and he played me as a full-back, and so I owe a lot to Leon. And it was I remember the conversation in the hotel. I was like, well, there you go. been a while, mate. So, anyway, I've rambled about myself. That's a bit of bullshit.
No, it was a bit about the WA factor and about the height. We're talking about Ed Allen and Elijah Hill we were getting to, actually.
Yeah.
And where he end up. I think he would be best served going to somewhere like St Kilda, and Ross could really... I think if he gets the right coach, Elijah will be a far better player than if he goes to an environment where he's just allowed to just run his own race. Not that happens at AFL level, but just having the right coach would be really good for him.
Yeah. Get him into a system that he can slot into, and this is your role.
And learn exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what Jonesy said. Adam Jones to me said, if he can get in that sweet spot with, say, St Kilda and Ross, teach him, okay, you need to do this, this. Put the parameters in front of him, he reckons he can excel.
Well, because some kids are the opposite. You need to just put them out in the field and let them play. Like Liam Ryan, for instance. Like you just
no point trying to
don't
put
even tell Liam what
him.
to do. Just do it. Just go jump on his head. Don't care. Whereas some kids really need. Like I was probably one of those kids. It's like, this is what you need to be. This is what you need to do, and you can educate them, and you can get them around a system, and they can go to another level inside that. Like you think maybe a Melbourne, something like that. They seem pretty regimented with their system. Somewhere like that, and St Kilda, Ross Lyon's known for delivering a system, so that'd be good. A couple of other West Australian boys, given that we are here on the Shelter Sportcast, West Australian theme. This is the best name in the draft, Jed Busslinger. He's an East Perth key defender. Jeremy McGovern type. People have thrown that around. Eric McKenzie type.
Yeah, that's fair call. I mean, it's not a fair call because these kids are just making their way.
You got to throw someone out there.
You try and let people who haven't seen these young blokes get an idea of how they play.
Or who they could turn into.
Exactly, yeah. No, he's really good. And he's had some shoulder issues. Mind you, there's a bloke that wore number 3 for West Coast that had some shoulder issues as well, but it ended up being a pretty good story.
Is this stick man, Andrew Gaff?
Well, no, I was seeking the other number 3.
Chris Judd. Okay.
Yeah, he had a couple of shoulder issues as well.
Good point.
Jed's like him a lot. As I say, the shoulder meant that he didn't play as much footy as he would have liked this year, but he's overhead terrific, averaged 24 disposals in the Colts this season. The whisper, could he get to the Western Bulldogs at pick 12? Could he, or below that, could he go in the top 10? I don't know. He's interesting. He's fascinating because he's a defender, and which clubs need that? That's what we're looking at down the track. And it's not for next year anyway. It's for insurance for 3 years down the track.
West Coast, Jeremy McGovern's not getting any younger. Tom Barras is, potentially next captain of that football club, but they haven't been shy of adding key position players. Like West Coast have always had a lot of key position players on the list. Like throughout my time, they do now. Yes, there's no Josh Kennedy right at this moment, but they are adding more to that crop. So he could end up at a West Coast Eagles. That's the West Coast and Freo wrap. It'll be round 1 tonight.
Yes,
and then the
4:20ish roughly. And I want to just touch on briefly Darcy Jones from Swan Districts, 174, 175 centimetres. Wears their helmet, so automatically you think of a Caleb Daniel type. Yes. He's quick. We know what he did at the draft combine, national draft combine, by
he broke a 14-year record.
Stephen Hill's record, I think 7.7, the agility test. So he is flying, lovely young kid. And
is he a forward?
No, he's a midfielder. No, he's 174 centimetres. So he's a mid. He's speedy. He's classy. I hope he gets the opportunity because he will be one without hanging my hat on. I've watched a bit of him, Colts, and a bit of league. Right. I think he can make it, which would be terrific because you talk about all sizes in the AFL, which, it's a tough, at that size, irrespective, you still have to be very good. And I think this young bloke can make a mark once he gets that opportunity.
Anyone else you've seen along the way, or is he's your guy?
I like him, and he's a bit distinct. I like calling him because I can see the helmet, and he's quick, and he's got a lot that I like about.
Very good. Shoulder SportCast, Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Now, I just wanted to go through a couple of names here for the rest of the draft, right? So, Will Ashcroft has been, talked about for a long time as that number one.
He'll walk straight into that Brisbane Lions side bowl accounts, which is a remarkable to say that with a guy that hasn't ever been drafted yet.
Yeah, GWS traded up to pick one, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Aaron Cadman is rumoured the guy that they're looking at. He's a key position forward, something that GWS have, honestly, they've needed that for 10 years. Like they haven't had Jeremy Cameron, I know, but I've always said Jeremy Cameron's not your Tom Hawkins. He always needed a Tom Hawkins. So perhaps an Aaron Cadman is that sort of player. Will Ashcroft. Harry Sheasel's an interesting one. I've seen over the weekend somehow copying discrimination on social media. Is he 17? Is he 18?
Well, either he's 17 or 18. Harry Sheasel, so he's got Jewish descent. Social media, I don't get it. I don't get the kids. Obviously hasn't, because of his background, is copying this type of crap. I mean, it hasn't even entered the system. It's just, move on. Correct. Harry Shees will get picked up, young man, and ignore the haters.
Yeah, correct. There's some, others floating around there. I think people listening to this podcast will be most interested in those West Coast, West Australian types that'll be entering the draft. I just think overall, good luck to the boys. Like, it's a big, there'll be some kids, some tension. Really nervous kids today.
And look, go back 12 months ago, and obviously we're in WA, but Matty Johnson went to RAC Arena along with other boys that were going to get potentially picked up. Yeah. We know that, I think it was Devon Robertson prior to that. There've been kids that go there day one, think they're going to get called out, and they're sitting there with all the cameras on them, and you miss out on day one. I know that Matty got picked up the next day, but it's that sick feeling. You don't want a 17, 18-year-old where they're being tyres pumped up left, right and centre, then have that deflation fee, even if it's only for one day. It's not a great look. Just
in case any of them are listening and they are watching along, if that does happen to you, don't worry. The second you get inside the football club, no one gives a shit where you're drafted. Honestly, no one gives a shit where you're drafted before you get there either. They're just like, well, who's in? Where they play? What's his attitude?
How can it help the team?
Correct. So don't worry where you get drafted. If you get onto a list, just do your best, put your head down, get to work. I threw it a little sting, but let's have another one. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings on the Shoulder SportCast. Now, the Socceroos review. We've got to talk about this one, Skate, because you and Chris Coyne went over the results.
Preview.
Preview, right? So you did the preview on Thursday. We've had a lot of feedback coming into the Shoulder SportCast about how poor Mark Reddings' picks were and how bloody good Chris Coyne's were. Apparently,
genius.
I had to duck out, but he has absolutely nailed what happened over the weekend.
Well, that's why we got him to sit in this chair, because he knows his stuff.
People have said his soccer knowledge is absolutely incredible. A lot better than Mark Reddings and Will Schofield.
Put together, yeah.
yeah, times 10.
Yet you still tweet about Tunisia's leaky defence. You're a genius, you are.
Well, Skate, I don't know if I was right or not. Australia defeated Tunisia 1-0, and Scully called it the game before.
Yeah, it was terrific, and well done, and I think we all rejoice in that. And Mitch Duke gets the header. I think he ends up, they're the best player, a list of photos of the player of the matches. And I think Lionel Messi was there. Mitch Duke, just of the four players of the day.
Lewandowski, Messi, Mbappe from France, and Mitch Duke.
Mitch Duke.
It was like the three best players in the whole game, which is unreal. I mean,
great.
They break records, right? So it was their third World Cup win and the first since 12 years.
Yep.
First ever clean sheet. First since 1974. Their first is 74. They get the first goal in 2 games. It's the first time in 16 World Cup appearances. So they've been starting well. It was an opportunistic goal a little bit. It was a cross that deviated a little bit, but it was a great finish by Mitch Duke. And like I said off the top, there's not many teams, probably none, that actually unite the country like Socceroos.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the T20 World Cup, I said during this, I'd rather see the Socceroos get to the second stage of the World Cup, even though they're not going to go too deep, than Australia win the T20 World Cup cricket. Because, I don't know, this is one that we know they're the underdogs. We know they've got up against some of the best football nations in the world. But to see guys like Harry Suter, Matty Ryan, Matty Leckie in defence, all do their part. It was just a very Australian performance.
So if you were watching along, Harry Suter, who's the big, massive centre-back that we've got, who I absolutely love, of course, right? He's a defender. He's done his ACL. He's come back off an ACL. He played one game for his team in England. And I want to say it's South something. You can have a look at that, Dan. He has played one game off the back of an ACL, and he's come in to do that. There's rumours now, Stoke City, Harry's with. So there's rumours now, though, that he can have offers coming at him because he was just like a rock that teams will now be looking like centre-backs and good key position centre-backs, just like in the AFL. They don't grow on trees. So apparently he might have just tucked a couple of extra zeros on the back end. He's probably not getting paid a big packet of money down at
Stoke City.
But Harry Suter, put your hand up, mate.
Yeah.
He's done bloody well. He was unreal. So Mitchie G kicked that goal in the 23rd minute. And I didn't feel like Tunisia really challenged Australia after that. They had some outstanding players, Australia. Matty Ryan, who this is his third World Cup, I think, and he probably had some stages in a couple prior where he probably liked to take back. He didn't perform very well in a couple of games there, and he was very good, outstanding. And Harry Suter held the defence together.
Yeah, no question. So that's what essentially what Australia needed was to have if you've got your defence sorted, and that means that you're not leaking goals. I mean, France, that was just I guess in many ways class just prevailed. But against teams that are about the same, if you've got a good defensive setup and structure, it allows you then at least to have a bit of faith. Okay, in the forward third we can do some damage. And look, we were a fraction lucky, the deflection, Mitch Duke, nice finish. But yeah, all being said, we've got ourselves a team now that I think goes into the third game with a bit of optimism.
I heard someone say about Graham Arnold's game plan. It's like they're defending a 1-0 lead
The whole game.
no matter what the score is, right? So when they're down to France, they kind of don't have that attacking flair. But if they get up early and have a 1-0 lead,
Which they have twice in this tournament.
yeah, that's the game plan, right? So defend well, try to counter-attack and have some quicker guys up front. Jamie McLaren looked pretty dangerous when he came on. He was a late substitute. They must, again, you and I probably won't be able to answer this, but it seems like they have more subs in the World Cup. I think they might have more subs. Can you have a quick look at that, Dan? Because the games I've seen, one, extra time at both half-time and the end of the game. Like I've seen 7, 8,
14
9,
minutes
10
I've
minutes.
seen.
That doesn't happen in EPL. I'll tell you that right now.
It's Alex Ferguson stoppage time as East at Manchester United.
They're playing another half pretty much. But
I
like it. I like it because there's a lot of dicking around in soccer.
Mate, there's so much of that. That is the one blight on the sport is the ability or the theatrics that are involved with players either going to ground, wasting time.
Some of the stuff I see, and I wonder if it's ingrained in players to do that. Do they watch back and go, gee, that's embarrassing? Or do they watch back and go, oh, well, that's just like hitting a pass? I'd watch back a game if I miss a kick or hit a kick. That's what I'm reviewing. Do they see that and just go, oh, well, got a free kick or didn't get a free kick?
No, I think it's part of the culture, Scott. I think that is how, and some are worse than others, obviously. And particularly, obviously, if you're leading 1-0 and you're up against a powerhouse, you're doing everything within the rules to try and soak up time. But yeah, it's not a good look for the sport.
So coaches have traditionally been permitted, this is off Yahoo Sports, this looks like it's off a blog or something, so who knows, 3 substitutions per game in football, but the COVID pandemic and the impact it had on player health saw a widespread change implemented to 2 extra substitutes being allowed in a match. That rule is also in place in the Qatar World Cup.
So it happens in Premier League as well now, does it?
Jeez, I didn't think so.
No, it's a good point though. It seemed like there've been a lot of subs.
So 5. That's a good thing because sometimes I think blokes must just get paid to go and sit on the bench in soccer. Like they're just the subs bench. There's about 15 blokes on there, and they bring on 3 a game.
Yeah,
I mean that's outstanding. That's very good. So as you said off the top, we can make it through to the next stage here. We're very much in a position
Graham Arnold,
to do it.
if they do, will have the job for as long as he wants it.
So do you think they park the bus then? So they can get away with a draw France need to beat
And
Tunisia.
bear in mind,
with that.
Tunisia and France are playing at the same time as we're playing Denmark, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure they coincide for obvious reasons.
Okay.
So they won't know. You've just got to back the fact that France can win. I don't think you can play for a draw in for 90. I just. What do you think?
Well, the thing that worries me is Denmark has looked very good. So France absolutely pantsed us, and Denmark challenged France.
Yep.
Denmark and Tunisia drew. Is that what's happened?
Nil all. Their first match of the tournament.
Right.
I mean, I can see us conceding the first goal against Denmark, and then of course having to change our mentality.
Because I didn't think Tunisia were very good. Like when we were watching it, it was looking a bit A-leaguey, the way that it was playing off the top. There was some quality, but it probably lacked that high-end quality. Whereas Denmark, they have some players that can do that. So that's what would scare me. And Denmark know they need to win. So if you park the bus against a team that know they need to win.
For 90 minutes, I mean, I agree. You have to go with the mindset of winning the game. Obviously, if you won, get the first goal.
Park the bus.
Yeah, park the bus, and you don't move it. No, but yeah, it's all about the game situation. I think the Australians, I just don't think you can sit back and think, well, we can hold a draw here, and that can't be the mindset. Otherwise, in that case, you lose.
We haven't given a slab away for a little while. I reckon we get a Shelter XPA X Factor, a slab of Shelter XPAs out to Harry Soutar. I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we get them to him, but I reckon we get some to him. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, all on board. Do you know what state he actually lives in, or whether he lives in Australia?
I doubt he even lives in Australia, mate. He's playing for Stoke City in England.
Maybe there's some relatives that he might have on the East Coast somewhere. But well on Harry Soutar. You deserve your the highlight of your week, getting a Shelter case coming your way.
Shelter boys, get ready. That FedEx account up and going. Get those international freight. That'll cost you about $1,000 to get a slab across the border. Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. You can email us if you've got anything to tell us, anything to say to us. FootyCast@shelterbrewing.com.au. You know where to find us on Instagram. Shelter FootyCast. This is the Shelter SportCast. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Skate. I'll see you in Bunnings.
Looking forward to the sausage sizzle and the Test cricket this week at Perth Stadium, Australia, the West Indies.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're cranking into summer. Scully, the World Cup, stay up late, 11 o'clock Thursday night. You and I will both be watching.
We love cricket.